Wonderful. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ohm School Live. GP is with us. He's backstage right now because I want, and there he is.
Sorry.
It's like a sneak peek. I love that.
Oops.
All righty. Yeah, so there's proof that we do have him here. He's not pokeroo here. Wonderful, wonderful. So today's show, I wanted to start off with a little story of why we're doing this show, and it's called Adult Trauma Sucks Too. You're like, all trauma sounds like it would suck, but we specifically wanted to talk about adult trauma because we're going to bring GP on that one of how we even experience trauma, why we have it. So this morning, I received a message from a very good friend of mine who went through and I'm going to use these words and I'm going to review it later with GP, but a very traumatic experience. And it just happened to her last night. I'm going to share with you. She was just eating like we all do every day, multiple times a day. And something got stuck very, very scarily badly. And it was not coming out. It was not coming up. And as she was describing what she was experiencing during that time, like I felt chills go through my body. I could imagine this and it happening to me, it happening to a friend. I could truly go through that. And I thought, how traumatic. I wonder if she'll ever be able to eat, and I'm going to share this, was asparagus. Will she ever be able to eat asparagus again? Like, will she be afraid? And I now was experiencing, like, thinking, what trauma would I go through? What is she going to go through? And what was so interesting, and she is okay, thank goodness. She even popped a little blood vessel. Like, it was very scary. It wasn't just like a few seconds of like, oh, I'm choking a little bit and there it comes up. Like, she really thought she was dying. This was it. This is how she's going to go. And what she was left with today was this ball of emotion, and it's heavy and it can go in so many directions. And here's the thing, it could go one way of being of I'm afraid to eat, or another way of, wow, I better seize and embrace the moment, the day of my life, and do as much as I possibly can, and like an overcorrection. And so in her final words to me there this morning on this sharing of her event that happened to her last night, she said, I'm just heavy in the heart and heavy in the chest, and I've got all these emotions going on. So I thought, all of us, I went through a car accident just a year ago, flipped the vehicle, went right over. And you know what the biggest thing that was with me about that wasn't actually the accident itself. It was the emotions, the thoughts, the fears that came with it, which I did work with GP 101, by the way. So I have to say that there's always that opportunity, everybody. And speaking of which, because now I've set us all up, and hello, everybody who is with us here, I'm going to bring GP back on. First on, and GP, hello. And trauma is something that you help people, adults, with. And before I ask you to define trauma and give all those wonderful things, I wanted to talk about adult trauma, like why adult trauma. This could run your life. This could be a traumatic event, or let's call it trauma, could literally be controlling your actions and your thoughts. So I want you to jump in on how big a role trauma actually plays in our adult life.
Well, trauma can occur at any time in life. I tend to focus a lot on childhood trauma because it's usually the deepest. It's most deep in the body because a lot of it happens before we can talk. And so it's a lot of nonverbal energy. And children are, of course, in the position of being totally powerless and totally vulnerable and totally dependent. And if the needs aren't getting met, then the body, the whole mechanism knows something's wrong. If the needs aren't getting met, something is happening. The body knows shouldn't be happening, right? And it's not getting what it knows it should be getting, right? And that's just inherent. Nobody teaches us that. But what a trauma is it's basically stuck energy. You can't run and you can't fight, right? which are the two mechanisms by which the energy is released. When you can't do that, you either die or you're traumatized. The energy is stuck because it hasn't been released. The energy that was supposed to go into running away or fighting and then just, then just dissolve is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. But an important thing to recognize about trauma, because we're all aware that the same thing can happen to two people, and one will be traumatized for life and the other won't be. So it isn't the actual event itself. Right? What it is the thing that creates a trauma, and trauma is simply the Greek word for wound, right? It's a wound, right? Just like on the body, they call it a trauma, right? And then the body heals, but sometimes the body heals with scar tissue and there's no feeling there, right? But in order to keep the thing alive, it couldn't repair it, so it just kind of put something over it that was void of feeling. And that's a good metaphor for what happens emotionally to us. It's parts of us we simply won't feel. We get cut off from that. But the thing that most makes it a trauma isn't the event, right? It's two things. The environment is what actually creates the event, right? So you have to put your attention on the environment in which the event is taking place. And the key element of the environment that makes something a trauma or not is the meaning we give it. And it's such a profound insight. Now you say, well, a child can't give an event any meaning. Well, no, not the way we would. But yes, in terms of if the body is expecting to be treated a certain way and it gets the opposite, how does the child interpret that? Powerless, defenseless, and totally dependent. It's my fault. There's something wrong with me. I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. It cannot impute any kind of guilt to the parents. So the child takes it. It gives that trauma meaning. What does this mean? It means I'm not good enough. And this idea can lodge in us long before we can talk or even walk. It can happen in the womb. Right?
Oh,
yeah, it can happen in the womb. And, it doesn't even have to be, this is what's really strange. It doesn't even have to be something really bad. It's just interpreted that way by the child, right? An example that I heard is Gabor Mate, who he was born during World War II in Budapest, Hungary, that was occupied by the Nazis. It was an enormous amount of, and his mother, I guess his father was killed or something, and his mother, when he was a year old, she gave him up to somebody else to take care of him. Right? Oh. Now that stuck in his nervous system as I was abandoned. He's 1 year old. The fact of the matter was, it was the most loving thing his mother could do. Right? She had to. Right? She could not take care of it, and he went to a loving home. Right? So it's very subtle how this stuff works. So now let's fast forward to being an adult, right? And now we've got not only our the basic functioning of the nervous system that's interpreting things, we've got all the layers of conditioning and experiences of life that's interpreting stuff. So something happens, it was my fault. This always happens to me. Why is this happening? Right? God doesn't like me. I have bad karma. These are all meanings attached to an event. The event has no meaning. It just happened, right? Shit happens. And then we interpret it. And the way you interpret it will determine the entire meaning. That will determine whether it becomes a trauma that can influence you for the rest of your life, or simply becomes an untoward event that moves through the system and dissolves away.
Right. I love that you said the word interpret, because I was going to ask how, because then we got there, but I was going to first ask, how do we choose the meaning that we're giving something? But then you said interpret. So here's where I'm going. If we interpret, so the event happens, and now I interpret it this way, and GP, you interpret it way. What is determining how we interpret?
Our beliefs. Our beliefs, our conscious and unconscious, our energetic assumptions, our conditioning. Every bit of us that has not been scrutinized through self-inquiry is going to be putting meaning onto every event that takes place. That's the nature of the mind. It's the storyteller mind you've heard me talk about. That it makes up stories, right? And it makes up the stories according to its conditioning. This is what it means, right? So if I've got a deeply held idea that somehow I'm not lovable, every event that takes place, I'm going to interpret it as me not being lovable.
Oh, like we have a root belief. Oh, yes. Okay. And then all these little,
even though I'm not aware of that, right? It stings me. So they, she turned me down for a date. I'm not lovable, right? My wife left me. I'm not lovable. We can't look at all the nuance of everything that's going on that would make something like that happen, because it takes a lot to do that. It's complex and it's intricate, right? So we just kind of default to this core story.
Oh, I like that word. What happens when? What is happening when we do normally? I'm not lovable. I'm to blame. This was my fault. And then something happens. An event happens, and we suddenly look at it like something different. Like, I'm done blaming myself. How did that shift happen?
Well, that's what we would call awakening, right?
Oh, okay.
And that only happened. And again, awakening is not something you do; it happens to you. Which is really important to note. The very fact, a desire to wake up, just a tiny little insight that this is a habit of thought. Maybe it's not true. What inspires? Where did that come from? The conditioned thought, the conditioned patterns that are convinced that that's the fact. It didn't come from there. So something else emerged. I like to call it grace, right? Something else emerged, right? Something inside just kind of awoke in you. And it's totally mysterious. Nobody can, how did that happen? Why? It's causeless. There was no chain of events that made it happen. That's why people say that enlightenment is an accident, right? So at best, you can become more accident prone.
That's fun. Now you said there about you don't think about it, you don't plan it, you don't have this, it just happened. But what about if it's in the womb and okay, so yeah, I want you to go back to the womb thing, because we were all in the womb at some point.
Yes, we were.
And stuff happens. And is it because we have our nervous system already and it's responding to that environment?
That's really interesting, because even this stuff happens. These impressions are made. It's been made quite clear before the nervous system is completely developed. So, I mean, this is really low level stuff, right? When you're talking about in the womb and prior, I mean, you're talking about past lives and things like that. But there was a study done of children of the Dutch winter. I don't know if you heard about that, but as punishment towards the end of World War II, as the Nazis were getting worse and worse, to punish the Netherlands for their resistance. Something happened here. Sorry. I'm really bad with the buttons today. I really should put my hands in my pocket. Anyway, the Nazis who were occupying the Netherlands took all the food out. There was mass starvation. It was towards the end of the war, and they did a study like 40 years later on children who were in the womb during that time, right? And all of them had trouble with their weight. All of them had issues around eating. So it was like, oh dear. So this stuff, it is, I don't even know how to put it. It's so low level. That's why I refer to these as energetic assumptions, right? Because you can't put words. You can't put words to it. I mean, children. I've worked with a lot of people who have felt, felt welcome or not in the womb. I know I didn't feel welcome. Now, am I projecting that from the future? It's hard to tell, right? Except when you kind of feel into a baseline level of feeling that you have, and something's off. Something is off, and you can sense that, even though you can't articulate it or put any words around it, or describe any events, because even memory isn't really functioning at that time, right?
Yeah.
So it's yeah, and extend it even further back into to past lives. There's an energetic level that's there all the time.
Yeah. Here's a question then. If we can be, I don't know, say affected, created, or if somebody else can be causing trauma. Sorry, is that the right way of saying that? So if I'm in the womb and I have trauma, does that mean somebody else caused it for me? And so if that's true, I was going to say, can somebody else heal your trauma?
Well, remember, I said that the trauma takes place within an environment, right? The environment, the setting gives rise to the events, right? And then the interpretation of them. In a case like the Dutch winter, the child it was just kind of programmed in that food is scarce, right? Because that was the experience mother was having. She was always afraid, and oftentimes not having enough food, right? And so that the child in the womb, I mean, everything the mother feels, they feel. Every chemical, every bit of food is shared, right? I mean, it's one being, right? I mean, the kid is the mom. That you can't separate the two until that time when they separate. And that's a big event all by itself, right? Right? That this little thing that's been, just been a happy little organ in a 5-star hotel, everything it needs being handed off. All of a sudden, it's like, it's like, whoa, squeeze down this little thing in your head.
Making birds sound hilarious, but so what? And now that makes it even more. I'm imagining the umbilical cord, being that little energy delivery system of messages and interpretations, and you're adopting them. And so, is it possible that I sit here with you, GP, and say, "All right, GP, can you affect my environment in a way that now I'll interpret it differently, that I feel safe?" Like, does tapping, when we're tapping, and are we affecting our environment, or
exactly? That's exactly what you're doing. Yeah, you're creating a safer environment, which it's going to respond to, right? The more safe the environment is, the less defensive the system is. It's really very simple. And in that state of safety, it not only doesn't create trauma, it even dissolves old ones, because it was always some kind of danger, right, that happened, that triggered being in this position, right? And then the meaning gets laid on top of that, right? So when the way I do tapping, it's both physically engaging the body, right? And that's what this does. But simultaneously, you're questioning the meaning. The dialogue that I'm having with people when I'm doing tapping is always beginning to question, not directly. It's subtle. You have to go in the back door, because if you just kind of put it right in its face, it resists. So you just kind of bring to the point where is that really true? And that's how you dismantle all the other layers that are sitting on top, that have established the pattern of meaning that is now interpreting experience. It's shaping your perception. I mean, it's literally creating your experience of reality.
Yes. And can we assume that all trauma has multiple layers, or can trauma be a single layer? You're like, oh, got it, done.
No, they don't all have to, right? The ones at childhood, the ones that childhood do, because they tend to be a result not of a specific event, but of a consistent pattern, right?
Ooh, okay, talk about
So
that.
if your parents diminish you, they're not just diminishing. If they diminish you on a day, right, right, nothing really happens. But if that's consistent, well, it's going to adapt to that, right? And then on top of that, there'll be and it'll go on and on. There'll be layers and layers of defense. And as you get older, you come to expect that kind of diminishment, which will make you reserved or shy, or make you boisterous and narcissistic. I mean, the effect it can have is varied based on the individual, but the underlying thing is the same.
Where it squeezes out of you is different for everybody. Question then, because I like that, a consistent pattern. I find for myself, I seem to, well, I know I react the most. So I would call it trauma. I react the most when something is not consistent, but like, hey, that's out of place. Why would you treat me like that? Like it's like I
Well, that's
think
actually a healthy response, right?
oh, hey, that's right. See,
See, I'm right. Yeah.
I was right.
No, I mean, it's a healthy response because you're not immediately blaming yourself.
Because I wouldn't be safe if I did that.
Correct. But I mean, it may be an overreaction. It may not be a true interpretation, right?
Yeah.
Right. But so it still needs to be examined. If you just assume, well, then I'm right, then you've missed that bus too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Everything needs to be looked at, but the capacity to be able to say to create a boundary and say no, I'm not going to be treated that way, is a very healthy thing. Where the boundary gets set, right, could be the result, right? It could be just like way here, right? So everybody's just kind of pounding on it. You could be way out there and you're completely alone. It's where it gets set that determines whether or not it's really healthy or not.
right. Okay. That was good. I'm glad that came up. And just for everybody here, thank you so much, everybody. And keep any questions and comments coming, because in the next 10 minutes, I'm sure around there, we will be getting to them, because on Om School Live, we have our theme, our lesson, and then stories to dig into. And then we get to read all your wonderful questions and comments and bring them into the show here. GP, with the broccoli. I've been eating broccoli for 2 days now. So with the asparagus story, this morning.
I eat broccoli every day.
I know.
It's one of my, it's kind of like the go-to cruciferous for me.
It's a comforting cruciferous.
Comforting cruciferous.
Well, and the asparagus was not so much last night. But so if something like that happened, so okay, I'm imagining this event happened, these conditions are there, and this very, like, we're talking the biggest emotion ever. I could die.
I could
right?
die.
Oh. And now I'm not dead. I survived. I'm here. How could one in any of those situations like that I want to say make sure, but I actually be in charge of the meaning that they put on the events, when it's like, should I embrace this moment? I'm alive, alive after asparagus, or
I survived the asparagus.
Or is it more like, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to eat stringy food again? Stringy.
Well, yeah. Again, it'll depend on the individual. It's very interesting to note that Ramana Maharshi, one of the greatest sages of all time, had his enlightenment at 16 years old because he thought he was dying.
Oh.
And he was just completely overcome with terror. His body was doing weird things. He thought he was dying. And so he laid down and he completely went into it.
Into dying.
Yes. He just kept going with it. He just didn't pull away from it. He just kept going into it and into it and into it until finally, wait a minute, something's not dying. And it was like an explosion. And he's one of the greatest sages of all time. So that's how he confronted exactly the same thing. Right? Now, was he dying? Who knows? Right? He hung around for a while longer. But a couple of months later, he left home at 16 years old, just wandered off to the mountains, and it's a great story. So you can see that it's all the meaning, what we do with it. Now okay, so somebody who isn't going to go into it and surrender to it and use it as an existential inquiry, they're going to be. They obviously want to live. I want to keep living. I want to keep living. Right. And I'm going to die. I really, really could die in this moment. It really could be over. And boy, there's so much emotion there. Our plans, our hopes, our people, everything, right, is like right there. And then when it ends, right, and you're still here, the thing kind of pops out, right, and you're still here. At this point, it's going to be like, okay, this incredibly threatening event took place. Mm-hmm. That's where you start.
Acknowledging.
Just pure acknowledgement. Yes, I almost died. Right? And I felt all the fear and everything that goes into it. Now, what do you do with that? I'm not dead. Right? And what do I do with this? What meaning am I going to attach to it?
Oh, I like that.
Now, that's a conscious choice, right? Whereas unconsciously, the meaning will just be there. Right. Including the aftermath of feeling so heavy, the body all, just shaking and the like, because it's going to. Of course it is, right? To realize that all of that is just the normal way in which things would react is also, that's giving it another meaning. Okay, now it's not a problem. This isn't a problem I have to work to somehow get rid of, right? This is what's supposed to happen. There's going to be this aftermath, right? And it could even pop up for a while, right? Yeah. And also then you become conscious of, I'll have these feeling like I should be doing something different, or I should have a different behavior now. And you can stop and look at it. Is that really necessary? Right? But you're standing now from a very different point. You're standing at the place where you're consciously creating the meaning. It's not just that the residue from traumas of the past, and that's how you become free of it. And you can use something like tapping to help give the body a sense of relief from it, to help it process that energy. Because remember, it's not a trauma unless the energy gets stuck. Right. If the energy isn't stuck, if you just are completely okay with the fact that this is the way it's feeling and doing everything you can to let the body release it, get a massage, do yoga, tap, take nice walks, hot baths, anything to help it, you're consciously participating in the process by which the trauma simply won't happen. And of course, every time you do that, you get better at it.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned. Okay, so I really did ask my friend. I immediately was like, "Well, were you rushing when you were eating? Did you chew properly?" Like I'm going to do things, because
yeah, of course,
would have went into what can I do to prevent this? And I like that you asked, you in this self-inquiry would then ask, is it necessary? Do I need to do anything differently? Maybe it just
need to do anything
happen. That is such a valuable question. If somebody wants to write that down for me,
no, it is. It's extremely valuable, because any attempt to try to change things to make it better, especially when it's a knee-jerk reaction, is coming from the trauma, the energy, and will be part of the trauma. If there's a conscious thing there, say, what did I do? I was eating too fast. Right? Now there's a conscious engagement there, right? Not an assumption. And so, no, I wasn't eating too fast. You look at it all and go, no, no, just weird, shit happens.
Yeah.
Asparagus happens. Death
Yeah.
happens. Death happens.
And death, somebody might die. People have died that
Yeah, of
way, that
course.
you think, what they died? How? What? That's how, well, yeah, that's how they died. That's
Yeah, yes, of course. We all die of something, right?
yeah. Yeah. And I like that question there too. Is it coming from the trauma? That is a very valuable question. And I'm trying, well, as you know, GP, and some of you already watching, when I had that accident, it's been a year now. Well, will be a year in a week or something. And I didn't realize how many of my choices of when I was going to drive, how I was going to drive, how soon I was going to get back home, make sure I'm safe and sound before it's dark, before it snows, before all this. And all those decisions were coming from trauma.
From the trauma,
It was
yes,
stuck, right? Because if
yes.
it wasn't stuck and I didn't have the trauma, I wouldn't be making any of those decisions, because those are not the decisions I really wanted to make. So
No, and in
control,
fact, in fact, um, no, nothing you could have done differently would have changed the outcome.
right? Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But we that's part of the story. That's part of the meaning, right? I should have done something different. You know, I mean, people die in car accidents in the middle of the day. It had nothing to do with at night, in the summer, right?
Yes.
In the Caribbean, where it's where it's always, right? It has nothing to do with anything. You can see the associations and the meaning that are given to it, and we are always imprisoned by the meanings we give things.
Right. So that's my final question to student Lisa here before I go into the comments. Okay, the word meaning. So I'm doing some self-inquiry. Maybe I'm tapping, maybe I'm just sitting with myself asking, do I need to first find out what meaning I have placed? Am I going to come up with words? Like, can I literally ask, what meaning have I given to this event? That sounds like a dead
Well,
end.
yes, something like that, but it's a little further down the road, because first you have to be in touch with the energy of the feeling of it, right?
Hmm.
Because it doesn't matter what the meaning is unless it's creating some kind of suffering.
Right.
So there's got to be some discontent. Something's off, right? Something's interfering. I want to do this, but I can't because, right? Or
Yeah.
you'll have a fear and you're not even sure what it's about. Something you avoid, something you don't want to do, right? That's where you start, because now it's real. Now your attention on something that's really there. And when you're with it on that level, then the question can be, well, what are you protecting me from? What is this really about? And you can begin to see that it's not about the circumstance you're in right now, but it's a projection from the past that's interpreting this circumstance according to a pattern that was established prior, maybe in the womb.
Hmm.
And so that kind of inquiry, it's not enough to just kind of grab onto that as the tool. When you're a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail, right? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, right?
Yes. Okay, that's important. I think, because I can imagine, I know myself and other people, that's where I would just go and then go, so what? Like, and so there's that meaning, but so I like those steps. And also like I'm laughing because I'm thinking of in touch with the feeling, and how that's a cute little tagline for tapping, because you're in touch. But
Yeah, cute.
I wrote that one down. But yeah, being in touch with the feeling, and saying, we don't even have to, we can feel it. We're feeling it. So is there
Yes.
discomfort? Am I suffering? Maybe I don't even know. It's just yucky.
Well, suffering is simply a discontent. Things aren't right. There's a feeling that something's not right. And so if we're willing to be with the feelings, right? I mean, that's the first step, because for the most part, we don't want to be.
Right. Yes.
We want to avoid the feelings. That's the whole thing. And so when they come up, we want to avoid it. So if I'm going to do something and suddenly there's a feeling there, I don't do it, right? So, and maybe I really do want to do it. And sometimes these feelings are overpowering, right? So what can you do except turn the attention towards the feeling itself? And with the intention of simply being with it and finding out what the truth of it is.
Hmm. I'm remembering little school, like when you're little, like a little kid, and just remember being, on the playground or in class when a child, for whatever reason, I wouldn't know as a child too, they were asked to do something that we all do, maybe go up to the blackboard or chalkboard and write your answer, or play this game or something, like where it had to be, and they would be like, no, I cannot do it. And they would have like a meltdown, like a freak out
Yes.
over it. And there's so many things, like I'll fail, I'll stand out, I can't, or all these things that they're so afraid of.
Yes.
And if we can just, as opposed to pushing them like, don't be such a wimp, or just go do it, that's the time.
Well, that's, yeah. By encouraging that kind of behavior, you are deepening the trauma.
Right.
You're making it worse. You're just putting layers on top. Now they're ashamed of the fact that they feel the fear, and you can see how the layers form, right? One on top of another. And then we get much better at hiding it. We arrange our lives so we never experience it, which of course you can see how much of life we get cut off from by it. So it's, you have to get to the root of it, right? You have to get right down to the root of it, to the original trauma that set the whole thing in motion. And once you do that, everything, all the way up and down the line, the cascade just begins to fall away, because it's all sustained by these powerful energetic assumptions.
Yes. I'm glad you said that, at the root, healing at the roots, because that is the ebook right now that everybody can download for free.
Yes, that is the book.
And actually, I will take a moment just to tell everybody that there is a beautiful, wonderful ebook that GP is revised, actually second edition we're on, and healing at the roots. And this is what this is about. And you guys can all download that for free. Get on the light letter, because as soon as you go to gpwalsh.com, it's right there. You can get it, and only till tonight, I think. Yes, tonight.
Well, no, the book is available, but the workshop is only available cheap until tonight.
Yes, so that was what I was going to go into, is that the accompanying workshop, which is wonderful. You get to watch GP and do his magic there, and walk you through the healing of the roots. And that workshop is free. It's a video, or not free. That one's $7. That's it, until midnight tonight. So yes. I am going to send everybody over to make sure that they get the free ebook. You can read that, take your time, but then get the workshop that goes with it for only $7. So that was my little pitch there. And and with that, because I want to see if anybody does have in our comments here any questions or things that they're experiencing or going through, or need some help getting to the root of things. So first of all, hello everybody, and love to Lisa. To everyone watching, would self-inquiry be the best tool to dissolve the faulty, that's an interesting word, faulty meaning we have given to the traumatic belief?
Yes. But it's a combination of things, because self-inquiry and the yoga of allowing go hand in hand. Because if the inquiry stays at the level of just the intellect, right, it'll be more of an analysis, and it won't really release it out of the body. There has to be an establishment of a very intimate and loving relationship with your feelings, because of course they're what's really driving the boat, right? And when you can be with the feelings, you can then inquire into the feelings. But if you're inquiring to get rid of the feelings, they will just double down. They'll dig in their heels and make it worse for you. So it starts by learning to drop our intention, drop our agenda, even trying to fix the trauma, right? because the effort to fix it actually makes it worse, which seems really weird. So what the hell are we doing this for? Well, because we, of course, we have the desire to heal from it. And the body has the desire to release this trauma. It doesn't want to hold on to it either, right? So we have to create a different environment, not just analyze what happened or try to give it a different meaning. That you can give it a different meaning up here, but it'll be irrelevant as far as your body is concerned. The nervous system itself has to assign a different meaning to it. It can only do that. It can only respond to self-inquiry when the environment is safe enough for it to question its assumptions. Right? If the environment's dangerous, it cannot question its assumptions. It can't do it. There's just not enough space. Just like anything, if you're really afraid of something, you don't have many cycles left for creative activity or doing anything fun. You can get very obsessed. The more unsafe we feel, the less energy there is for anything else. So that has to come first. Our capacity to be able to create a safe environment through the yoga of allowing or inviting is part of inner reconciliation is always the first step. Then you can begin to inquire. And it's not like a first step takes, 10 years of practice. It's not like that, right? It can happen very, very quickly. But we do need to become aware of how much resistance we have to the feelings. And that resistance is us trying to push the feelings away. And that feeling of and pushing it away, the feelings, or that the nervous system interprets that as another attack, and it just doubles down. So what do? You love. Instead, you accept it as it is. This is where I am. This is what I'm feeling. Something happened, and I want to be free of this feeling, of course. What's the best way to become free of a feeling? Well, to become safe, to become love, to express to yourself the love that you didn't get in the first place that caused the feeling to be there.
That's the change. I love that. I'm going to switch I know it's words again and in my brain, but I like that. I'm going to start switching it when I hear anyone say, "Oh, I just want to fix this." I'm going to hear, "I have a desire to heal. I have a desire to heal." I think that's a beautiful way of hearing things from people when they say, "I'm in pain," and I guess it's just compassion. It's meeting it with compassion, like you said, with the love. I love that. Thank you for asking that one. I have to say that there's a question here I'm so excited for you to answer. It's from Carl Lucy. Is a nervous breakdown in adulthood caused by an accumulation of unhealed trauma?
Is a nervous breakdown in adulthood caused by... Well, again, I always want to point out that, when you're talking about trauma, there are technical definitions of it in the DSM-5 and all that. And I'm not a doctor, right? This is just what I have gleaned because it's so important that I've learned about it and learned how to work with it and learned how to identify with it. A nervous breakdown is it's almost like depression, and that you just, it's like the walls have closed in so tight, you've got nowhere to go, but the nervous system is still trying to go somewhere. It's just bam, 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 bam. So so you've got this energy like this. It's almost like, the tectonic plates before an earthquake, right? That are just pressing on each other. And so yes, it is always every ailment, right? And there's plenty of medical people and scientific people who agree with this. Every physical ailment, except maybe for a broken bone, is caused by trauma. It is just all this stuff that accumulates, right? And as it accumulates, the more it accumulates, the more our lives becomes constricted and constricted. And and our desire for a full life and for growth and for expansion is frustrated, and we don't know why. And so you've got this immovable object meeting an irresistible force, right? So on one side you've got this intense need for freedom and self-expression. On the other side, you've got this thing that says absolutely nothing is going to happen. This is the center of the entire inner conflict. It's always between safety and freedom. So yes, it can take the form of what you would look as a nervous breakdown, but also every other kind of psychological, emotional, and physical condition. It's all caused by exactly the same thing, and it all points back to trauma, which is caused by I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, and it's simply because you weren't loved.
It's so hard to hear that. It's so true. It makes so much sense. My mother died 9 years ago, and it's so tricky when people ask me, "Oh, what did she die of?" And I really used to always say the word, she died from stress. I mean, I called it that. Not feeling loved, because then it creates everything that she had. So I used to always say that. I believe exactly what you just shared. That was beautiful. Thank you, GP. Thank you, Carl, Lucy, for asking that. And okay, so broccoli level 8. That was cute. Here. I'm not going to try to say all the whole name, but I'm going to go with Gina, and that's
Janalia Devi.
Oh, you did that so well. Thank you.
I don't know if it's right, but I made a good shot at it. Yeah.
Yes, I think so. So Ramana was already having an ego at death, yes, on the floor, and use the inquiry of who am I, during which some find useful, but not all of us.
Yeah, no, the center of the self-inquiry, especially as Ramana taught it, was the question, who am I? But he also had a whole bunch of other stuff as well, recognizing that for a lot of people, they just couldn't get it. And my experience has been the same, which is why I've developed all sorts of other ways of getting it to the point where you can ask that question and it'll actually be asked in the right place and in the right way, so that you get the answer. Because if simply our personal sense of identity, right, which is the conditioned mind, asks that question, it can't get an answer. It can't receive the answer. It'll just come up with some other different version of itself. So there's some preparation that has to happen first before that question has any kind of validity. And so it's very likely that it isn't useful for you. And in fact, it might never be. It doesn't have to be that, right? Just who am I? Who am I? Who am I? It can just become like a mindless mantra, right? And it is always, if you look at it not as the specific words, but every time you question some kind of conditioned patterns, you become aware of some kind of habitual thinking, you're actually asking that question. Is this really true? Is this natural to me? Or was this a conditioning that I got, right? That's asking the question, who am I, in a different way. But it all boils down to the same thing. What's really me and what isn't? Or who am I, really? So it doesn't have to be those words. And I don't use those words all that often.
I actually can't use those words either myself. Just it's there. I'm asking that, but I like how it's not that we're doing the reverse of the negative, but like what's really me? Who am I really? Is that comes out of our mouths a lot more, because what we'll do is we'll sense and feel when that's not me. That's not a me thing. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't use that color. Yes. I wouldn't do that activity or eat that food.
Yeah, it's like trying on a piece of clothing and go, oh my God, that's not me. This doesn't work. I don't wear plaid.
Right. Not even the Irish plaid. Come on.
Not even the Irish plaid. No.
the oh, where did I write it? I usually don't go past one page of notes, but now I am today. This is fun. So much is coming up. The languaging does help. The direction helps. And I just going to, because Ava, you are last asking, and I just want to let everybody know this. The healing at the roots that we wanted to make sure that everybody has access to is the free ebook. So I do want everybody to know that, because I
And
want
some
them
exercises, yeah. But
yeah.
there, I should admit my technical blunder when we
Yeah.
changed some stuff about it. There was the free stuff, which has the book and some exercises, and then there was a whole workshop, which was $97. I put a lot of work into it, and then we're offering it to everybody who downloaded the book for $7 for a period of time. Well, we made some changes. I moved some stuff around, and everybody got it for free.
Yeah, no, even $7. So,
Yes. So instead of and there's a lot of like over 100 at this point of people, and so here I am sitting there with instead of $9,700
right.
we've made about 12.
So if you would like to say, hey, that we want to support you, we want to do that, what you can do is buy GP a coffee.
Coffee.
buymeacoffee.com/GP. I'm putting that in the comments.
Maybe I can get them to sponsor us. Huh?
And that is something we do try to do often. Not only create lots of stuff to help and make it affordable, like beyond affordable, and then guide you through it to, by using these shows like Homeschool Live or doing workshops, just because this is what happens, Ava. We go, wait, do I have it? Is it in my curriculum there? Do I, is it, where do I start? Is that the best place to be? And how much is it? So yes, that was something yeah.
But the Buy Me a Coffee is real.
Yes, that one's real.
It's a place for making donations, and for me, it's basically an almond milk latte. But this is a way to make donations to help pay for my blunders, basically.
There's the mistake erasers. So yes, Ava. And so what we were doing is making sure that everybody could get all of those accompanying workshops, the $97 value for $7 up until tonight, midnight, at everybody's own time. So I don't have to say everybody's own midnight.
My midnight, which is Pacific time. So it's 3 a.m. for you, and for Ava, it'll be like, I know. It'll be in the morning. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And jumping back here, I was reading Jay's questions there. How has your relationship with your wife affected your kids, G? If you don't mind sharing, we'll put you on the spot. Has that sparked an interest in them for self-realization?
My relationship with my wife, with their mother, was anything but good. And she alienated them from her. My two sons and I are very, very close. We have a great deal of love and affection. My youngest one is more oriented towards the scientific engineering kind of thing. My older one, I mean, he said it. I'm grateful for my father who exposed me to big ideas. And he is very much he meditates. He's got a teacher, some guy in England. And he's visited various kinds of gurus and that sort of thing. He's heavily into the householder mode now with 2 little kids. So it's not up to me to spark that interest, right? I've always been interested in big ideas, and I exposed them to it, right? Both not just spiritual ideas, but scientific. I just exposed them to stuff, and encouraged them to look deeper, to not accept things on the surface. And that's all you can do. And that the rest is up to karma and their own inclinations. And what else can you do but be yourself and be loving and take care of them and just be there for them, right? Which I always was. when they wanted to come stay with me, all right, come stay with me. Come live with me. If they're struggling with something, it's kind of a lifetime deal. It's a lifetime job. Now I'm enjoying the fact that I'm totally obsolete and they can get along without me. It's quite nice.
This is a question, GP. If let's just say, yeah, you've got children and grandchildren. Is it possible that they could still experience trauma from you because of their own? How am I going to word this? I don't want you to come out and say, no, I'm not perfect. I don't mean it like that. But I mean it like, is it still possible that somebody else might experience trauma?
Sure. Everybody's going to experience it.
No matter how perfect.
It doesn't matter how good it is, right?
How good it is. Yeah.
I was heavily traumatized, right?
Yeah.
I had a lot of shit, even going into marriage when my kids were very little. I'm not quite sure how I did it at all. Both of them. My younger one said somebody asked him why. Boy, you're such a good father. He's a stepfather to this young boy. Why are you a good father? He says, I'm just being a father the way my father was. Now, what else could I want to hear, right? But I consciously made up my mind that that it was stopping with me. It was not going to go any further. Did I get it all? Assuredly, I did not. Yeah. But I said that to my son. I made the choice. I didn't. He says, "Don't worry, Dad. I'll take care of the rest." Mm-hmm. They understand it. What more can you do, right? We are all traumatized. Sorry, just really kind of chokes me up a bit. We are all traumatized. There's no way around it. We have to become conscious to truly transcend it, and that's a commitment, right? And there's something about having kids and you're conscious that you become really conscious, right? Because you don't want to pass that on, right? But the very act of being born a human, with the human body and the human experience, it comes with this kind of, it comes with it, this fall into identifying with the body and taking on all these characteristics and all the trauma and all the stuff that goes with it is the necessary steps in awakening. It's not an accident. It sucks mud, but it's not an accident. This is the way it's supposed to happen. And you go, why? And I put it like this. If you ever seen the process of making something, it's like a computer chip, right? The process is totally toxic and noxious, and you have to wear all this stuff. I mean, it's just really horrible. The end result is incredible, right? But the process, ooh, it's totally nasty.
Wow, I didn't know.
There's many things that are like that. That the end result is just fabulous, but the process is toxic.
Yes, not exactly the same, but I have to say, I was diving into the world of fungi, and mushrooms and everything, and I was so excited. I got this new fungus to try, and I went, oh my gosh, look at all the work and how many times I have to soak it and wash it and rinse it and wait. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't ever want, but it's delicious and it's so good for you. So it's same kind of thing. Computer chips and mushrooms. There we go. That's what
there we go. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, it's absolutely the case. So we have to be so kind with ourselves because we think it's supposed to be avoided, and then we blame ourselves. Like, I should have done it. And then we go beyond that and blame the parents until we realize, well, they're just doing what happened to them and they weren't awake, right? So what's the most precious thing? The fact that I'm awake to it. Even if it still overpowers me, the very fact that I'm awake to it is like, do you realize what that means? You're talking thousands of lifetimes without that. And you're also talking about the vast majority of the 8 billion planets people on the planet alive today don't know this.
Just walking around in that, in their,
They're just simply acting out their conditioning.
yes.
They have no genuine freedom.
Yeah, it's that cage. That's why I truly, truly, I think compassion is one of the biggest graces that we can hold.
It is. It is primo. There's one thing I want to answer before we go, because I know we've run out of time. And no, Ava, you can't buy it again. That just doesn't work. So, if I could even put it out there, can you please help me? So let's just buy a latte. Buy me a latte. Oh, Maria just bought me 5 lattes. Thank you, Maria. Bless your heart. I'm going to be caffeinated, thoroughly caffeinated. But there was a lot of light made. Original trauma for me was being in a body at all.
Lucy, Carl Lucy. Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, this is like, wow, that's such a big one, because that's actually not what it was. Because first off, you're not really in the body. You are simply experiencing through the body. You're not in it. What happened was not the emergence of the experience. The emergence of the body is the emergence of all experience. The body and the universe all happen simultaneously. They're one thing. When my sense of self identified with the body as an object in the universe, that was the original trauma. If that hadn't happened, there'd be no trauma. That identification, that eating the apple, the tree, the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that is what the original trauma was. The presence or absence of a body means nothing, does it, in and of itself? It's totally innocent. I have to give it meaning. And now we give it the meaning like, okay, having a body is a problem. No, it's not. Only if you say it is. You've given it that meaning, and the meaning you've given it is what's constricting you. When I decided that I was the body, in that moment, my relationship with the entire universe and everything in it became governed by that, and the infinite me shrunk down to the size of a pinhead. That's my my explanation in brief.
I just had a life. Thank you so much, first of all, GP, for going back to that, because I didn't know it was going to go there, and I just had a huge, major shift in one of my own beliefs just now. This is so crazy. I was blown away by that response from you, GP. Is it an appropriate? Is it a useful question to ask ourselves then? What does my body mean to me in this situation, in this event? Could that help us discover?
Yes, but I tend to want to just go for the juggler and go right for the belief that I am the body. Right? Are you the body? Right? That's something that it's an assumption that I am. Right? And we've all lived our lives as if that was an actual fact. And I invite you, is that really true? Am I the body? And now you explore, well, what is the I then? What do I refer to as I? Is it my hand? If I cut off my hand, am I like not me anymore? Right? Take all this stuff out. Even the brain, we think, what is the brain? I mean, it's all this stuff, but there's like a million little piece parts doing different things. So where am I then in the brain? I mean, it's like, where am I? Where the hell am I? There's all sorts of this stuff going on, but there's this place that it's all cognized. A thought comes up, but a thought doesn't exist unless I'm there to look at it. Well, where the hell am I? That's the question. Am I the body? Right? And I mentioned this in satsang a couple of weeks ago about a neurosurgeon who had a near-death experience, a very strict materialist, Just, it was all chemicals, it was all brain functioning. And he had a near-death experience and went and visited all sorts of stuff and came back. And what was unique about it as a neurosurgeon, he had a unique disease that literally destroyed his neocortex, which means he was incapable of having an illusion. He couldn't, like some, they're near death, but they're not quite dead. And the brain is still there, the part of it that would allow them to be able to dream, to think, to have any kind of experience at all. That was all gone. As far as the neuroscience was concerned, it was impossible for him to have had that, because and he did. And then he came back and it was completely healed within 6 months. It grew back, which is also not supposed to happen. It's been written up in journals and that sort of thing. And now the guy's like, the consciousness is not in the body, period.
Wow.
That capacity is not in the body. And if we can see that everything is based on that assumption. I am the body. That is the original belief.
Yeah.
The moment that happens, the feeling of being separate emerges. And then we have the fear of death and the fear of lack.
Ooh.
That's the eating of the apple. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. There's so many things I want to invite people to, because now you're sparking all my knowing of all the different courses and classes and things that I want to direct people to, but I don't want to overwhelm. So we've already done 2 today, which is because right now, like, I know, are you guys really excited I want to like dive in and do self-inquiry and tapping and everything like that, because I have a desire to heal, not fix. So if anybody's joining me on this desire to heal, if there's any assistance that you need at all, all you need to do is reach out, just comment, say, I'd like some direction, some help. I need some where to go, where to look. Just there it is. Just that's all you need to do is just comment there, and GP and I will both see it and we can reach out to you. But for now,
and also thanks to Lisa, we're really organizing Om School to be able to guide people, to give them direction. Because I know there's a lot of courses, there's a lot of different ways to approach that, and it really does have to be individualized. And so you can all have the opportunity to have a direction guiding conversation with the co-founder of Om School.
We'll walk you through campus. Go ahead and have Om School. I've always wanted to be a tour guide, so this is fantastic.
Well, there you go.
Okay, so all right, well, we'll come to a close, but thank you, everybody. Thank you for the buymeacoffee.com/gpwalsh.
Yes, thank you all.
Thank you, everybody who's purchased one. I'm gonna get a sip in there somewhere, and something warm. and we'll go into your email. Make sure you check your light letter to find out about the healing at the roots. And if you are not on the light letter, go to gpwalsh.com and get on there so you can have that. All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday.